And that's that. So let's have a look at Shiv's 6k damage game right here. So a lot of people are asking about how to solo squads. And I thought this was a perfect example of one of the most important things when it comes to soloing squads. This game is a perfect example of kiting. To prevent yourself from getting surrounded and to bait enemies into isolation. Which of course you want to isolate enemies to create 1v1s so that you're not overexposed to 2 or more enemies. That's a topic that's come up a lot in these WoWs today. So I thought this was the perfect example of that. Rough start here, my man doesn't have a gun. It's unfortunate. But it's fine, he's Shiv. By the way, for those of you that haven't seen it, I gotta show you this. Because Shiv is the rank 1 Bangalore player. Where is it? It's right up here somewhere. Come on, show me. Shiv is the rank 1 Bangalore player. And here he's playing Pathfinder with purple armor. Killing poor Jackal over here. Bam, Jackal's dead. Now he's playing Path, but I'm playing Bangalore. So it's time to assert some Bangalore dominance. I'm pretty sure if he's the rank 1 Bangalore and I'm killing him as Bangalore, that automatically makes me the best Bangalore in the world, right chat? That's how that goes? Look, it's me, it was baiting him! Ha! Yeah, so clearly if anybody else asks you from this day on who the best Bangalore in the game is me! No, I'm just kidding. Shiv is an infinitely better player than me. But Jackal saw in the kill feed that it was him early on. So this is Jackal who I was playing a couple warm-up games with. And he said it was Shiv. We were fighting like way before this as well. And we both were forced to back off. He got a knock on Jackal here. And then he yeeted himself out. He has purple armor and I have common in this fight. So I was just completely... waiting on him to grapple back up. I knew that as soon as that cooldown was done, he was coming back up. So that's why I'm standing on top there, just waiting for him to grapple back up so I can punish him. If it wasn't for the fact that I knew he was gonna push because of the knock and the purple armor, he would have fucking destroyed us. But I predicted what he was gonna do, and because of that I got the kill, even though I was missing a lot of shots, so I was super happy with that. But that's only because Jackal noticed he was in our game, and that was him bleed. Alright, so he's got double snipers now, which is not ideal, but obviously if you have double snipers you're looking for poke, and you're looking for range damage. So he stays here instead of pushing up, because obviously he doesn't have the right weapons to try and get a close range fight, and he has the ability to go back into the doorway here for quicker peeks, right? Where the triple take especially is very strong. Right, he gets one knock, which is an advantage. That's very good. He gets more damage as well, but he's very low, so obviously he doesn't want to push into 2 enemies. Now luckily he has an armor swap here, but he instantly goes for some health first, and then, this is very nice, he goes for high ground, right? He knows he's alone, he knows he has to fight multiple enemies, so he doesn't want to run into an unknown situation with more than 1 enemy. So he takes high ground first, he scouts, and then here he sees somebody, and now he can decide whether he wants to push or not. He gets a shit ton of damage on this guy and breaks him, so now, I mean, these shots are free, so he's going for them, but if this guy dropped down, he would have definitely pushed here, because he has an advantage to push on now, plus information. Right, but that he went to the high ground, gave himself 5 seconds to scout, and there you can see the power of it. As well as these guys started the res because he backed off, and so now he gets a free kill. Again, see how close he's sticking to the cover here with this crosshair? This is good cover usage. It's like it's even kind of wide, but look at how close he keeps his cover. Like he always has about like 30 to 40% of his screen covered here, which means part of his body is always covered as well. That's very good. Right, so he spots an enemy, starts with the sniper again. So far so good. Again, at least 30 to 40% of his screen. There we go. At least 30 to 40% of his screen, it's not the color I wanted, is covered with cover, right? So right now, if, he's not overexposed because he can only see 1 enemy, but he's not sure whether there's 2 more enemies and if so, where they are. So if now somebody shows up, like let's say a Pathfinder shows up right here, or a Lifeline shows up right here, it's just 1 step to the left and he's not overexposed. So this is good cover usage. Getting those first sniper shots on again. right after a shot, instantly goes for cover. Even though he knows he's about to instantly peek out again with his 301, that's not only 2 bullets that this guy is missing. This guy will ADS at him, start shooting, and then when he goes back into cover, probably stop shooting. If he keeps shooting, he's just wasting bullets, and if he stops shooting, that means when you peek out again, you've now got a little bit of an advantage, because they've wasted bullets, and they have to readjust their aim. Hi coach, how are you? I'm doing great, dude. How are you? Right. Remember what we were talking about all day today? Why is my light just fucking... When you see more than one enemy, you're overexposed. If you see 2 or more enemies, you're overexposed. That's what ends up happening here, and notice what he does, right? Somebody shows up behind him, the Pathfinder, or sorry, shows up in front of him but goes behind him. Instantly what he tries to do is start running forward and go around the corner so that he's not exposed to more than one. Now he ends up downing this Wraith instantly, so that fixes the issue. But this goes to show that like pro players know when to disengage, even if it's just like half a second of them changing their position. He knows he's overexposed, and so he instantly pushes forward to have cover here and not be in more than one enemy's face. As well as, of course, she's low, so he can finish the knock by pushing into her. So that's also similar to what we were talking about before with not getting surrounded by 2 teams. And if you're in a situation where you did get surrounded, you're going to need to find a way to punish one of those teams and push up. The same thing goes here. He's surrounded by 2 enemies. One of them is very low, the other one is full health, so he instantly full pushes the one that's very low to knock them to get himself out of the sandwiched position. Right, pre-aiming where he knows the enemy is going to be, so far so good, and then obviously now he just out-aims him. But he prevented himself from getting sandwiched as much as he could. When he got sandwiched, he immediately full committed to the weakest side. And start of a new fight, so what does he do? He creates distance where he doesn't get surrounded, where he can figure out where the enemies are, and he can get some early sniper shots on, right? Giving himself an advantage to push on. He doesn't have an advantage now because he hasn't been able to heal yet, so what's he going to do? He's going to back off and reset. No advantage, so no fight, right? As soon as he's healed up here, the advantage is reset. It's actually somewhat in his favor because he got some early damage off, which hasn't gotten healed. And so now he goes back and takes the fight again. He knows the enemies are in this direction, so he keeps everything that he knows is safe to his back, and he's pushing forward from doorway to doorway, trying to get some early damage on them. I'm good, how have you been? Dude, I'm so fucking happy to be back, I'm doing great. Took a long break off Apex and stream, but I'm very happy to be back. Alright, so now he scouts the other enemies. Instantly he doesn't know where he's going, so he backs off a little bit so that he has a little bit more range. Again, he does not want to get surrounded. He wants to bait these people into pushing him one by one. Instantly uses cover, most of his screen is covered when he's taking this fight. Good peek shots, right? So even when she's not shooting back, he just made it a habit in between his shots. Use that cover. Alright. Couldn't get the knock fast enough. He's afraid of the other enemies pushing in. No advantage, no fight. Exactly, right? Here he had a little bit of an advantage on the lifeline, but not on the enemy team, right? That took too long. Those enemies might be pushing up. He knows that. So he resets to get that heal off, and hopefully he's fast enough with the reset and the heal that he still maintains the damage advantage on that lifeline. Right, same thing here, good peek shots, good cover usage. Again, even though he gets more damage off first, there's multiple opponents, so it's not enough of an advantage, so he backs off and heals. Right, so he could have lost this fight, this very fight. It started with a third party. He could have lost this fight like 7 times already, right? Like now that we've paused it this many times, notice how often he actually backs off. Right, he keeps trying to force 1v1s instead of 1v3s. This is why he's alive, and this is why he ends up winning these fights. Alright, so he's in a tough spot. He's keeping a good eye on whether they're pushing or not, but he's not really taking the fight from here yet. Good sniper shots. Okay, now that person is going to back off and heal. He's full health, so now he's created an opportunity for himself to get out of this shitty position and potentially take a fight. But of course, by the time he moves up, that Pathfinder is probably full healed, so we're probably going to see him looking for another advantage at the start of a fight. Oh, well, there's people there, so I can't push up. Too bad. Right, there you can see as well, by the way, why quickscoping is so important. Shiv here quickscopes, this enemy Pathfinder does not, right? They both have a sniper, and you can see how easy this guy is to hit, because he's hard scoped and he's crouching. Right, so he's super easy to hit, and Shiv is quick peeking and dodging the vast majority of the damage by going into cover. Right, so he's dealing with 2 teams here, one on high ground, one on low ground, which is why he's maintaining range and trying not to get sandwiched. Alright, he doesn't want to get sandwiched, but he's in a position where he can commit on this team and not on the other one because of how far they are, right? If the fastest way for them to get across is the zipline, where they're super loud, punishable and obvious, and from this position they're pretty easy to line of sight. So this team up here is now not as much of a danger as they were before. Before he was playing around them very safely because he was stuck on low ground below them, and that's very dangerous. But now they're not so dangerous anymore, so he can full commit on this team above. The only thing he has to be careful of is this spam from the left. So we instantly see that he goes over to a rock here, which blocks line of sight from the left, and then he can keep shooting at this octane here, right? So he's actually blocking line of sight from one team while trying to also fight the other team. This is why he has to back off. Not enough of an advantage. And now he's about to get sandwiched because somebody is ziplining behind him, and so he's going to full commit on the team that he already has an advantage on, or try to anyway. Notice how he's rotating around them, making sure he doesn't get sandwiched. Right, again, the Pathfinder crouched and hard scoped, making him way easier to hit than Shiv was. I mean, as in you stopped for a while, so are you back to streaming regularly? Yeah, I had to take a bit of a break, but I'm hoping to be back daily now, so my schedule is back up. Right, there of course, not just great aim off of Shiv's part, obviously his aim is pretty incredible, but again, making yourself harder to hit is like at least as important as aiming well. Look at Shiv strafing left to right. This enemy isn't strafing left to right, and you can just see the difference right there. If that dude was just moving left to right and not even shooting, he would have been alive. Don't know where their team behind up ended up going. Apparently they ran away. Alright, people are straight above him, so he probably doesn't want to take a fight from here. This is rough. Maybe he will throw nades. Nades are pretty powerful here. This is the same situation that we saw in Raiders Wild. Instantly using cover, that is good, but this is a very difficult angle to fight, so I don't think he's going to hold this. Yeah, instantly backs off for a better angle. He has line of sight blocked from the team above, and now he can push or fight somebody that's in a way worse position. So shooting this lifeline who's out in the open when you have better cover control because you're close to full cover and she is out in an open position is way easier than fighting the team up there, right? So yes, she has high ground, but she's not using it well, so she doesn't have an advantage. Shiv does, even though he's on low ground. That's why he can take the fight against her, and that hopefully gives him an advantage to kill the other teammate. Or at the very least it makes it a 2v1 instead of a 3v1. Alright, there's two enemies over there now, somewhat close to him, so instantly he backs off a little bit, even though he has a damage advantage on that enemy now. Again, he doesn't want to overexpose the two enemies. The way to beat a team is to fight them 1v1, and by going for the thirst here, he doesn't have to anchor the position, and he can reset a bit more easily without the risk of that person getting rezzed. Now, not an advantage, so he doesn't take a fight. Right, and again, he's kiting to try and split them up, right? So they're close together now, so he's probably gonna back off. Yep, instantly goes up top to break line of sight from the one below, right? So as soon as he sees more than one enemy, he generally tries not to take the fight, and he tries to find situations to isolate them. This path was on higher ground that he could push, so he could isolate the path. Alright. So we've seen him kiting a lot, and that's just like, that's the name of the game. This game is he's alone, he has to deal with multiple people, so every time he sees more than one enemy, or they're pushing up too close together, he kites first and tries to force them to split up. Right, again, disengage, once again, just like a lot of the other ones, starts with a third party. This is not in his advantage, so the first thing he does is reset, start the fight clean. Yeah, Coach Stream, hell yeah, Bada. How are you, dude? Right, notice how much he is peeking as well, even when he's not shooting, to make sure he's not getting surrounded, right? As soon as he sees he's getting surrounded, he backs off. Right, so he's starting to get flanked. That's not a position he wants to fight in, so he kites once again, and hopefully he can corner bait them into pushing here. Because he can't back off much farther unless he's willing to go through zone. Love Shiv, crazy accuracy, he's great. So what we're looking at in this game is how he uses kiting to 1v3, to force people into 1v1s like this, right? So he keeps forcing 1v1s by kiting every time they push up with more than one person. And he does it very well. even right there, he splits up the fight. Like, this is, look at how big brain this is. He knows that this team is going to be coming from here. He's got one knock because he got, hold on, got a, okay. So the first thing is that he breaks an armor in here with his grenade, right? That frag, to cover his heal, broke an armor. Because of that, he knows that one of the enemies is either low health or is backing off to heal. So after this heal, there is probably at most 2 enemies pushing in. If not, then he wants to shoot all of them a little bit, basically spray over them instead of trying to spray one down to see which one has broken armor and kill that person. You always want to kill or punish the weakest opponent. Never saw Shiv's vid here, but this whole game has been textbook kiting, really cleanly executed. Yeah, that's why I've been wanting to break down this game. He just does it so well. This is really a good case study on kiting. So he knew that there's at most 2 people pushing, and one indeed pushes out in front of his teammate, allowing him to take a 1v1 here. And then he actually uses a thermite to split the fight against these last 2 enemies. Right, so he chucks a thermite to try and cover, and then when one of the enemies pushes up, he actually cancels his heal because he has already created a 1v1 here, and of course he's going to punish this res. He would probably not have punished this res if the thermite wasn't here, right? Because the thermite is splitting off line of sight from this last enemy. Last enemy is shooting from here, but he can't see shit, right? So that's why he's able to take a wide peek here. So far this entire game we've seen him covering 30 to 40% of his screen with cover to play safe when there's more than one enemy. This is the first time he's not doing that. It's because he uses the visual clutter to isolate one of the enemies. And now it's just a 1v1, and he's gonna win because he has way better aiming mechanics. So even though he's in a very difficult position here where he might have to leave out through the zone, he isolates these people so well, and then is able to punish them for pushing up poorly and starting reses in front of him. So really good guiding, and he just keeps guiding and guiding and guiding until he gets an advantage, right? He just keeps resetting the fight until he has an advantage to play on. That poor guy. It's just genius. Fucking peacekeeper, dude.
Oh, behind you. Oh no.
Oh, yikes.
Oh, wow.
Fuck.
No! Nice plate around that Pathfinder.